Friends, welcome back to the Getting After It podcast. I am really excited you're here today. First off, I apologize. I'm a little bit sick, so my voice sounds a little gross. Maybe not gross, but I just sound like I'm congested. So bear with me through that. And I also want to say thank you for all the support that we've been getting. The show it's been awesome. Seeing all the comments and the shares on things like Spotify, on YouTube, we're starting to pick up some traction there. So it's really cool to see. It just gets me excited that more people are taking interest in the idea of getting after it and pushing themselves on a regular basis. Like, it doesn't just have to be running. Running's a good start, but how you stay consistent in the long run, like that is really what's kind of important about the Getting After It movement. Is it's aimed for building consistency in yourself, which is exactly what we're talking about today. This is kind of a part two to the episode 162 that unfortunately Spotify has taken down. I submitted an appeal, but had some copyright music in there, so they took it down. Unfortunate, but I guess, hey, we're getting to that level now, so it's kind of cool. Anyways, being consistent is one of arguably the hardest things to do, really. Like, starting is easy because there's a lot of excitement at the beginning. Anything that is novel, we can get really pumped about. Think about, hey, I used to be this way as a kid, at least, but I would always be excited for school to start. Like, that first week of school was so awesome because I'd be able to show everyone my new outfits, my new backpack, my new lunchbox. I'd see who my teacher was. Usually at the beginning of the school year, you don't really do much. You just go through the syllabus, maybe play some get to know you games, whatever. And that kind of goes away pretty quickly, right? Like, once you get back into school, you start getting homework, you start studying subjects that are a little difficult for you, then hey, that excitement kind of dies away. And it's the same kind of story with everything that we do. And I hear it a lot from runners that I talk to. It's just the hardest part of actually doing the thing is staying consistent and making sure that you're still putting in the reps, still showing up for yourself. And again, this doesn't necessarily have to be just about running, but I think it's a great analogy. Doing anything difficult, that's a good analogy to think about with this episode. And so things like weightlifting, things like training for a sport or running, starting a business, like starting a family, anything that's difficult, how do you remain consistent? How do you perform to the best of your abilities each and every day, especially when you don't want to? Like, when that time comes, and everyone deals with this, is when you are grinding, you're pushing yourself, you're starting to either get burnt out, you're starting to get tired, you're starting to get bored, you're getting fatigued with whatever you're doing. But that's when you have to look back at whatever you're doing. Like, you have to think about your goal and say, hey, I'm still in this. And you have to show up for yourself. The reality of inconsistency, though, is it's human nature. Like, in all honesty, it really is human nature. Like, everyone's been inconsistent at some point, including myself. There have been days where I've stared at my shoes more as enemies rather than something that's going to help me accomplish my goal. And I'll get to the gym, and I'm just like, I do not want to do this. I don't want to lift. I'm tired. Or I get to the trailhead and I'm like, I am really not looking forward to what's coming over these next 2.5 hours. Like, whatever it is, you can kind of get burnt out a little bit. And, sometimes it's burnout, sometimes it's boredom, and sometimes it's just life being heavy at the time. Like, there's a lot that's going on, and we all deal with different things. And so it's difficult to go through that, but honestly, that should give you some reassurance that you're not broken, you're not failing in any way. It's just, honestly, it's human nature at that point. Like, we all fall off the wagon every now and then. What's important is that we get back on. Like, that is the most critical thing I could tell you when we talk about consistency. Is if you ever notice in yourself there's a lack of consistency, you're starting to get inconsistent with your habits, and you notice that in yourself, the first thing that you need to do is immediately get back on. Like, start as small as you can. Just do whatever you can do that day. Like, for example, if your goal is to train for a race and you've kind of fallen off, Run a mile that day that you notice that. Be like, okay, well, let's at least get this momentum going. Because with consistency, momentum is going to be the biggest help in this journey. Like, you have to maintain momentum. You have to keep that going because otherwise you run the risk of, like I said, burning out, getting bored, or a number of other things you might run into. But at least jumping back on as soon as you can, that'll help you at least, stay focused on your goal and hopefully get back on track. Because that really is what's important. And, we call that resilience, being able to stay with something for a long time. And when you do get knocked down, you get back up and you just keep on going, you keep on fighting. And consistency requires resilience because there are days when you're fatigued and you're exhausted and, things are pretty difficult to pursue. And, you just have to keep taking one step in front of another. And until you get to that point to where, you are starting to make that progress again and remain consistent on your goals. But just remember that it's something that we all face. Inconsistency and those kind of, problems that we deal with, they're human problems. They're not a you problem. They're not a me problem. Everyone has to deal with them. And that's the important rule, is that you just try. You just try to get back on track. And for me with running, if I ever notice myself slipping, or if I ever notice how like I'm exhausted and I am tired, I can't train. That's an important thing for me. It's like understanding when you're just tired or understanding when you need a day to rest. And to be honest, I'm not great with this yet, but one thing that does help me is if I start a run, I usually try and just do 1 mile, right? And this is going back to the like start small kind of things, just maintain that momentum. I'll say, hey, if I run a mile and I'm not doing great at the end of it, then maybe I'll pull back and take a rest day. And so I start the mile, and depending on how I feel after that mile, I'll either keep going or pull back and say, no, I need a day. It's rare when that happens, but it's important to be able to lean back on that and just say, hey, I'm going to give it my all. And sometimes your all is going to look like a mile. Like, that is still consistency. That is still putting your goals out there. It's just, you might need some time to recover, and that's completely fine too. You just have to listen to your body, and you need to learn what it feels like when you're going in the red line for so long. And also, when you're starting to feel better and go smoothly that way. So just a couple things to think about there is, what's the smallest thing that you could do to maintain that momentum with your goals? What are some triggers that you could use to help you stay on track when things get difficult and maintain that motivation when it's arguably not there? Like, that's important to do. You also need to remember your why. Like, a big part of consistency is remembering why you're doing something in the first place. And for me, like, running's kind of nice because I usually train for races. Like, I have a 50-mile race coming up in April, and if I don't train for that, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble April 18th when I go and run my first 50-mile race. And so that's like a good reason for me to push myself. But I lean back on the why. My true why for why I run is basically because I know what it's like to not be able to. I was told by doctors that I, ran the risk of having a heart attack if I ran a half marathon. And that sucked. That was not fun. And I know there's so many other people out there who don't have that opportunity. So I always remember those people too. I try and think of them. That keeps me going. And that's my main why for why I run. And the podcast, like, the reason I keep these episodes coming every single week and I push them out to as many people as I can. I try and get this message out to people is because I know how beneficial it has been in my life. And I know that it can really do well for others as like the same kind of thing. I know it can really do wonders for people who apply these principles into their lives. Like, you will become someone who you never thought was possible. And that's why I think it's so cool. It's because everyone goes through these transformations. And by the end of it, everyone has way more confidence when they do apply these principles correctly. And like, I think of Drew, I think of my mom who's been getting after it for years. Like Allie, her brother. There's so many people who I just look to who are really trying to achieve greatness in their lives. And it's through small steps. It's not through major steps that seem like an overnight success. No, it's the small and consistent ones that really really build people up and really do wonders for others. And one part of, like, I hear this a lot too. When I talk to people who say they're not consistent or anything like that, they will say that. They'll be like, oh yeah, I know, I'm just not a consistent person. Like I can't stay with something for so long. And then they'll list off their excuses. Like, oh, I get bored. I'm fatigued a lot. I have a job. I have to go home and, be with my family. Like all these things, which are valid excuses. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, does it matter to you enough to make time for it? Because arguably, I think any pursuit that you want to do, you can find time in your day to make it happen. You can cut down screen time. You can cut down Netflix time. You can cut down time spent doing, tedious or stupid tasks that don't bring you any value. And that's the thing, is just like, when you eliminate the excuses, when you don't allow them to show up, and you say, you know what, I am a consistent person, then hey, you identify as that and you become consistent. It sounds like some woo-woo stuff and some cliche crap, but it truly is like, that is a powerful tool to use, is saying like, hey, I know I am a consistent person, or I'm a runner, or I'm someone who goes to the gym every day. And then you show up for that. Like, even if it's not great, even if it's not the best workout you ever had, but at least you still showed up. And that's what consistency is all about, is showing up, especially when it gets difficult, when life starts getting heavy, when there's so many things happening at work, with your family, and in the world, that you still make time for the things that matter to you. Like, that is important. And you need that. Like, everyone is an individual person, and we all have different desires. We all have different wants. And you can't go about your life just focusing so much on like your career and your family, but not give any time for yourself. And that might be a rough thing to say, but I think that is true. Like, I've done that before in my life. I've tried, being there for other people more than myself. And it's almost like that. It's kind of like that analogy with the, you're losing altitude in a plane, and the oxygen masks pop out from the ceiling, and you have to put yours on first before helping others. And I feel like a lot of the times, like, when you have a goal, like, if you show up for that goal, if you're doing what you can in your life, like, to balance it, and sometimes, each day is going to look different in terms of how close you get towards that goal and how much progress you make towards that goal. Sometimes it's going to be small. Sometimes it might look bigger than others. But if you make that time for yourself to pursue something great, then I think, one, you'll have more confidence in yourself, and two, you'll have a better relationship with yourself. Like, you need to still learn who you are. As weird as that sounds, like, I still find out some things about myself that I was like, hey, you know what? That's kind of cool. Like, I still am learning who I am. I'm 28 years old, and I'm sure that'll go until I'm, on my deathbed. Like, I'm sure I'll always be learning things about myself. And I just am passionate that you need that time to be able to have that, to decompress for yourself, to be able to forget the worries of the world. And I wouldn't necessarily say forget your responsibilities, but maybe take a break from them. Like, and this might be bad advice, but it helps me. Like, anytime I'm having a day where I'm stressed at work and I didn't work out that morning, I'll go work out and I'll feel 100% better. Like, ask Allie. She's seen it before, where I'm just a grumpy guy, and then she will literally tell me, she's like, go work out. And I'll go work out, come home, and I'm in a much better mood. And it's just weird. Like, if I didn't have that outlet, and that's kind of what it is for me, as an outlet, I think I would be a lot more angry. And I'm just glad that I figured it out as early as I did. But you might be feeling that way right now. You might be feeling kind of how I feel when I'm not able to work out and I have a rough day at work. You might be grumpy. And maybe it's because you let your hobby sit on the shelf for too long. Maybe it's because you've said you're going to do, maybe you said you're going to do a half marathon for the last 4 years in a row, and you haven't done it yet. And so you have to gain that confidence back in yourself that you can do hard things. And that's why I think it's important to give yourself time to work on your own pursuits. But don't put that over other people. Don't put that over your family. Don't put that over your career. Don't put that over, your faith. You need to make time for those things too. Like this should be but make sure you're just balancing time for others as well as time for you. Like you need that just as much as anyone else. Like do not allow yourself to fall off in that way. But really quickly, I want to talk about dealing with fatigue and burnout because I feel like that's a common thing that many people struggle with, including myself. Like that is something that I still deal with to this day. But I've realized that fatigue is actually just part of the game. That is part of the game. Some days you push through it, like I mentioned earlier, but other days you need a rest so you can come back stronger. And again, I'm still learning this. I've pushed too hard. I've ignored the signals many times. And anytime I do, like my self-talk goes pretty dark, especially when I miss workouts. But what I'm learning is that rest, if done properly, can become a weapon. And burnout isn't necessarily, it's not a sign of weakness from you. It's more feedback. Like, hey, you're in the red line. You're going too hard, too long. Like, let's tone it back a little bit. Let's see what we can do to take those smaller steps to get to that point. So don't feel like you're weak if you need some rest from your goals. And we've been talking about being consistent a lot of the times, but oddly enough, I have seen I've coached a few people and they've told me like I am exhausted, and I will tell them. And my coach did this to me too. But just saying, hey, listen, just take a week off. Like, do not run. Just take a week off. You might need that. Fuel up, eat good. Just take care of your body. And then usually after that week, they come back hungry. Like they're like, okay, I'm ready to run. Like I want to get back into the things. And I did that to my coach too. I was like, okay, this is like, I had my rest week. Like, let's get back into things. And again, it doesn't have to be running. Like if it's a hobby or a business or something else, and you're just burning yourself out, you're burning the candle at both ends, then maybe it's okay to say, okay, I'm just going to take a day from this. Like I think it would be better for me to not have this cloud my mind all day, every day. And so just take a step back and be like, okay, well, I'll come back to this. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And as long as you jump back on and keep that momentum rolling, sometimes rest, like I said, if used properly, can be a weapon for you. And it can be a good tactic to keep in your back pocket. Be like, hey, you know what? This isn't something that I have to do every single day that will, in fact, determine the quality of my life, right? It's, you might need some time just to relax a little bit. The other thing I would say is consistency thrives on support. Like having accountability partners. It's why Drew and we talk every Sunday night. Kind of just in that conversation, we have a review of the previous week, what we did well, how we did in training, areas that we need to improve on. And then when we're talking about the upcoming week, we will set goals for that week. We'll talk about our training plans, what we're going to be doing to stay consistent. We'll talk about our personal goals, our spiritual goals, financial goals, all these different things. But it just makes it easy for me to be able to be like, hey, you know what? Drew and I are trying to kind of do the same things together. We have these spiritual goals, we have these financial goals, we have these fitness goals and these personal goals that we're all trying to strive on. Him and I are in the same boat. And then we talk about our training. And whenever I'm tired and like I'm having a hard day, I think about Drew or the other people that I'm training with too. It's like they're humans. They probably have the same kind of feelings that I do from time to time, and they're still showing up and pushing through. So I can too. And I don't know, it just gives me a little bit more success, I think, with being consistent, is being able to rely on others and have them close. So what I would say is, like, if you have a spouse or a really close friend, a parent that you can reach out to and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. I just want to talk to you about it every week, like talk to you about my progress. And I would love for you to hold me accountable and just check in on me, every now and then. I think people really respect that and they appreciate it too. It makes them feel like you trust their opinion, you trust their judgment of you, and they won't let you slip. If they're a good accountability partner, they will not let you slip. So choose them wisely. But it is I wouldn't say a cheat code, but it's very helpful. Like, do it with someone. Get a friend, get them into running, get them into training, get them into, your business, like whatever thing you're trying to pursue, do it with some other people. You don't have to go at this alone. And that's what many people think, or I think a lot of people fail with consistency, is they feel like they are, in fact, going at it alone. They feel like they are doing this thing. They're the only ones out there who are pushing themselves the way that they do. And in reality, that's not true. Anyone who's trying to get after it, they're all going to be pushing themselves. They're all going to be trying to do something difficult and really improve their lives just through their actions. And so getting after it, like the whole idea of this community is to build an ecosystem of people who are in that same boat, who can help each other out, who can rely on one another when things get rough, who can give advice, who can chime in and say, hey, listen, I was dealing with burnout a couple weeks ago. Here's what I did. This might help you. And everyone's story is going to be different. That's what getting after it also emphasizes, is that, hey, listen, we're not from the same circumstances. We're not from the same places. We're different body types, different athletic types, but we're all trying to do something difficult. We're all trying to make progress in our own ways. And we want to help each and every single one of the people in the community get there. That's the goal. There's enough to go around for everyone for success. And anyone who tells you otherwise is a loser, and you should get them out of your life. Everyone can be successful. And it's easier to do it with other people. So if you're listening to this, I just want to push you this week to maybe find a few more things you can be consistent about. Really take a audit of your habits, your choices, and what you do, and see if there's some things that you can improve. Most likely there are. And when you find that, don't feel like you're broken. Just take it as feedback that you can get better, that you can improve, because you can. And that's what this is all about, is just slowly getting better each and every day. So I hope that this helped at all. If you're dealing with inconsistency, or if you're just looking to be a little bit more consistent, I hope some of these things that I said can help you on that path. And if it helped at all, please leave a like on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube. It all helps, and at least just gives it a little more traction in the algorithm to get up on more people's feeds. So appreciate your guys' support. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and as always, keep getting after it. Thanks, guys.